The PSAC is fast, man. I love it. Division II, PSAC, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference is fire, as my swimmers would say. And Mark the Things are awesome. Recruiting is in full swing, and as it pretty much always is in our sport. And we just came off an excellent prelims finals mid-season meet at Johnstown State University. So it was awesome. We had ourselves, UPJ, men's and women's swimming, Edinburgh, IUP, Indiana, University of Pennsylvania, both PSAC teams. So 3 PSAC teams. And then Youngstown State, which is a Division I big dog, and UPJ swam awesome. We had a bunch of lifetime best times. We made finals every night, and we held our own with the big dogs. And we got our first PSAC qualifier in the history of UPJ swimming, Mark DePalma. Yeah, the PSAC is fast, man. I love it. Division II, PSAC, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference is fire, as my swimmers would say. And Mark DePalma dropped 5 seconds in his 200 free from what he went a month ago at the Shippensburg meet and destroyed the PSAC cut by over 2 seconds and went a lifetime best time. So we're going to PSACs, baby. Yeah, we made history at UPJ. And I walked into our athletic director's office, my boss, Abby Gearhart, who's the most wonderful person I've ever worked with and one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And I walked in there Monday just to take care of some business. And she said, how does it feel to make UPJ history? And we just all celebrated in the office. And it was a wonderful experience this weekend. It's really nice when your swimmers swim really well. You know what I mean? It's a good feeling. So I live for it. And I'm sure you do too as a coach. So, yeah.
So there's your first year. And how did you recruit these kids in? Were they on campus already? Or you shaking the bushes and trees and trying to get some kids that want to come out and go to the pool?
Pretty much, Mark. That's pretty much how it went down. So I started April 22nd, which is pretty late in the game to recruit for the fall. If swimmers aren't sure where they're going by the end of April, I'd be happy to snag them up. But most people knew where they were going. So we got some internal swimmers that wanted to swim that were already at UPJ, which is fantastic to offer them the opportunity. And I just recruited in the quickest but most quality way that I could. I want wonderful people from wonderful families who are really good students who want to be a part of something awesome. So I connected with a young lady named Nicole Scott from Marion Center High School, valedictorian, 4.8 grade point. And she was going to go to Pitt, Maine, the main campus in Oakland, but she wouldn't have been able to swim. And so when we talked, we got her to come to UPJ. And so my first recruit as a college head coach was the valedictorian of her high school with a 4.8 GPA. And she's an awesome swimmer too. So really, really excited about that. But we're really working on just getting the word out for 2026. The hardest thing, Mark, is just people don't know we have a men's and women's swim team at the University of Pittsburgh, Johnstown. So, just getting the word out is the key, but it's going well for 2026. It started out pretty slow. And I was real nervous about it. And I'm still a little nervous because until you've got them all signed, it's not a done deal, but it's starting to go really well. A lot more interest from guys than women, just because I think less opportunities for guys out there. And we're wide open for women and men. Like I said, good people, good students. I'm not even really that focused on how fast you are. Obviously, the faster you are, the better in college swimming. But I know I can make people faster. If you're a guy and you're a 26.5 in the 50 free, I know we can get you down to 24 real quick, and just build on what their club coaches did with them and what their high school coaches did with them and just further it from there. I was a club coach for 25 years, so I'm a big believer in that. Really is the most important part of your swimming development is what your club coaches and high school coaches do with you. So all I want to do is just build on that and help these swimmers get better through that process.
How do you get the word out? What are some of the secrets? And And you're not totally alone in this as far as starting a new college team. There are a few others around the country. And are you networking with those folks too?
You know what? No, but maybe I should be, Mark. I'm not. You know what I am doing that's really nice is the PSAC coaches have been the kindest, most caring coaches I've ever met in my life. The guys at IUP, Chris Villa and Adam Stoner, go out of their way to help us be successful. And I can't tell you just how wonderful they are. They just want to see the sport grow. They really have that big picture swimming mindset of, hey, UPJ's growth and success is good for IUP, is good for the PSAC, is good for D2, is good for the world of swimming. So they've been very, very helpful, just giving me some tips and pointers. And, as far as getting the word out, this is huge. This is an honor to be able to do my first podcast with you. So I appreciate it. This is a big deal. I also did the Referee Rich show on the Fox 8 Altoona network, and he was fantastic. I did that a couple weeks ago. We had a great on-air interview. I talked to other coaches that I know. I talked to high school coaches, club coaches, any coach, summer league coaches. I go around to club meets, with business cards and with my Pitt Johnstown hat on and just talk to coaches and swimmers and just tell them about how we're growing something awesome and, how I'm going to care for your swimmers like I care for my own two children. I have two boys, 10 and 12. And the way I coach is you just got to, and this is a no-brainer at this point, you just got to put the person first. I want happy people who are getting good grades, and then I know they're going to give me their best every day in practice, and so that's what I want to communicate to the swimming world out there. Definitely treat my swimmers as one big family. And that's, you spend most of your life on a pool deck, right? You want to be surrounded by people you care about and that care about you. So just doing that, going to go to a bunch of high school meets coming up, Richland High School and Westmont High School. Both two really good high school teams use our pool at UPJ for practice and for swim meets. So looking forward to getting out there and just going to some high school meets and just getting the word out, as quick as we can. I'd love to have, 20 guys and 20 girls for the fall of 2026 on UPJ. I don't know if we'll get that many, but that's the goal right there. And it's just wide open right now, which makes me feel good. I don't like to say no to anybody if they're good people and they're hard workers. The blessing for me with this is my favorite job I've ever had, biggest opportunity in my life to do something awesome. And I want to say yes and give people the opportunity to enjoy what I would consider the most beautiful thing or one of the most beautiful things on earth, and that's being able to swim.
Tell me a little bit about the campus, the majors, and the facilities. People are going to want to know, hey, what type of pool do you have?
I'll start out with the pool. It is a standard 6-lane, 25-yard pool, 9 feet in the deep end, starting blocks, 4 feet in the shallow end. They actually just did $1 million renovation about a year ago on like the whole athletic center, and the pool got new tiling. They replaced the pumps and everything like that, which is great. But to be fair, it's like a pretty basic pool. I love it because we have huge glass windows and doors that open up to the Appalachian Mountains. Like the view from the UPJ pool is the Appalachian Mountains. There's hiking trails right out back. You see deer as big as horses. I moved up to PA about 3.5 years ago. I used to love deer before I moved up here. Now I'm like, just get out of the road. Just get out of the road. But it is a gorgeous view. When you live at a pool, it's nice to have natural sunlight. And I said to them, on the interview process about 8 months ago, they were like, hey, it's just kind of a standard pool. I said, all I need is 6 lanes and 25 yards full of water to get the job done. An indoor 50-meter pool is great. I don't need it. So I love our facility. It's pretty basic. Our campus is 729 acres of basically woods, trees, mountains. They kept all these trees when they built, the dorms. The dorms all look like ski chalets, like ski hotels. It's really, really, really gorgeous. Top majors would be, engineering. Engineering is really popular. We have an excellent engineering department, and we get a lot of interest with that. Nursing is huge. And I really feel like we have such small, like I almost said coach to swimmer ratios, but teacher to student ratios in the classroom that after the first week, the professors are going to know your name as a student. And that's all what's really magical and special about UPJ, is that we really do get to put that very like, specific support on people. It's big enough to meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun, but it's also small enough to where our athletic director, Abby Gearhart, is going to know your name, whether you're a student athlete or not. When I came up on the interview, we went to lunch in the cafeteria. By the way, excellent food. Shout out to Lacey Gearhart. She does a great job. We feed our athletes really well. They feed coach really well too. We went into the cafeteria. Abby knew everyone's name, every student's name. And it was like, second hat for her. It was great. She's the most positive, supportive person I've ever worked with. It's really nice to start a men's and women's swim team, especially a men's team. Not many people are doing that, but both men's and women's, and to have just undying support. There's a lot of programs out there that are, like might be on the fence about if they're going to keep them or not. And we are just gung-ho about having Pitt, Johnstown swimming forever. I want to stay here the rest of my life. I want to retire here in 25 years. It's the best place I've ever worked. The people are so positive, and everybody wants everyone else to be successful. And that synergy is unmatched, at least for me in my 30 years of coaching. It's a really beautiful place to just, be an employee or be a student athlete at, or just be a student at. UPJ is like a little hidden gem over in Richland, PA. Yeah, not many people know about it. It really is just a gem, and it's beautiful inside and out. Really wonderful, truly genuine, excellent place to be, for sure.
What about winter break? Are you going to stay on campus, or do you send the kids home? Do you have a little training trip? What's the schedule for winter break this year? And then what do you think it'll evolve into in the future?
I let my swimmers go home for Thanksgiving. We get the whole week off for Thanksgiving. I let them go home, but I reminded my swimmers that, hey, this is a break from school, but we're only halfway through our season. And Mark, after doing this for so long, we've been talking about Thanksgiving break and Christmas break since day one. So I wrote workouts for them, and I tried to make them manageable, no super crazy VO2 max sets, because I'm proud of them for doing it on their own. Some good dry land, some good training so they can stay in shape. They come back, in 6 days. We'll hit it hard for about a week. Then they've got finals. So I have kind of a more aerobic with short sprinting, kind of flexible finals workout schedule for them. So we do keep in shape, but so they can do what they're there to do, which is study and learn and get awesome grades. It's got to be student first and then athlete, really person, student, athlete. He just taught me a lot of things about working with young adults. When you work with club swimmers, it's different, I guess when you're 17, 18, you're kind of becoming a young adult, but it's more like they're kids. These are young adults. They need buy-in. They need a say in what we're doing. They need support. They need to know I care about them. So I wrote them, 5 workouts over Thanksgiving. Monday was a recovery day because we just got off the meet. Tuesday, Wednesday were strong. Take off turkey day. Friday and Saturday, not super strong, but get the job done. We come back Monday, the first, train hard. Finals week will be really flexible. It's like come in when you can, because I know finals are all over the place. And then they'll get like 2.5 weeks at home for Christmas, which, don't get me wrong, makes me a little nervous because they're great swimmers, but some of them don't even have like necessarily like availability to practice with a team, which is kind of new for me. So we've been planning out since day one. Hey, how do you get to a pool? How do you get to a county run pool or a YMCA? And so, because they know if they come back December 29th out of shape, and I'm just very straight up about this and honest, I'm nice, but I'm straight up. I said, it's over. I said, if you're out of shape December 29th, when you come back, I was like, there's no way to get the aerobic base and get fit and be able to do all the power and lactate work we need to do and then taper and swim fast. I said, you'll just barely get in shape by the time we taper, but your speed and power won't be there. So, we really, really got to do the job while you're at home for 2.5 weeks. And I say, remember, it's a break from school. We have a long season. It's not a break from swimming. And I trust my swimmers. I think they're going to do a great job with that. We've been really proactive about that. And they know that I'm here anytime for anything they need. All they have to do is pick up this, call me, text me, and they know I've got them. So yeah, I think that's going to go well. And then we hit the back half of the season and then just go rock it through the end of February and eventually through March when we get some D2 national qualifiers. That might take a year or two, but when we get there, that'll be really fun too.
And I wanted to ask you about the things at St. Francis. It was interesting in such a way to problem solve, moving from Division I down to Division III. And then I think there were a lot of people then that just departed. How are things, in your estimation as to the move at St. Francis to D3 from D1?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I've actually, I've thought a lot about that. I've talked to a lot of people about that. When they announced that they were moving from D1 to D3, I was in like the final interview process with UPJ, and I was really excited, hoping that I was going to get the UPJ job. But at the same time, I will always love and support St. Francis. I cried, like bawled my eyes out when they told me, because I didn't think that's what the meeting was about. Our men's basketball team with Rob Krimmel had just made the NCAA tournament, and we were like more hyped than anything. Rob Krimmel, former swimmer, you probably know this, but his dad was the head coach at Penn State men's and women's swimming for years. And that's really cool to have a head basketball coach whose dad was a really awesome collegiate coach. And so we got the announcement. It was really sad. And, we only had a women's team up there. So Phil and I really just wanted to be there for our swimmers and make sure, they were okay. And at first it didn't seem, I don't know, you can say positive or negative things about it. I don't know how you handle a situation like that. I don't know if anybody can pull that off and do it well, quote unquote. I don't know if there's a playbook for it, but it was a sad day in Whoville for everybody. And we just did our best to keep the swimmers at St. Francis. I didn't take anyone with me to UPJ because I would never do that. I wouldn't do that to SFU. I wouldn't do that to Phil. And there were some swimmers where we just sat down. I said, listen, I'm going to talk to you like I'm your dad. You're going to get a physician's assistant degree from St. Francis. That's why you're here. That's fantastic. You're going to help a lot of people and make a lot of money. Nobody's necessarily going to the Olympics. As much as I'd love to have you go to the Olympics, nobody's probably going to the Olympics here. You need to stay here and get your degree. And so that was a good conversation to have. There were some swimmers that left, but I feel like a lot of quality swimmers stayed at St. Francis. And Phil Hurley is a recruiting machine. So like he's going to build that team really quick, and he gets to coach guys too. They're going to have a men's and a women's team at St. Francis. Makes me nervous recruiting against Coach Phil. So I think they're going to be fine. And I don't really have any skin in the game anymore being at UPJ, but I honestly think after it all settled and got digested, you know what? It's probably the right move for them. D3 is really fast. SFU is a prestigious, expensive school. And I think it's going to be a good fit. And I think when the dust really settles in 2 or 3 years, I don't think anyone's going to know any different. Right now, it's probably a little tumultuous, but I hope that's settled down. But I think they're going to make it. I think they're going to be fine. I look forward to doing a dual meet with SFU in the near future too.
Now you're a D2 school. So do you have some scholarship monies? Are you going to build into that? What's the status there?
We do have money on the guys and girls side. We don't have a ton of money. In-state UPJ costs about $26,000 to go there a year. If you have really good grades, you're going to get $4,000 to $5,000 academic money. So that drops it down to $21,000 to $22,000. We do have some athletic money, just, not a ton. At first, I was kind of saving that athletic money for people who would score points at PSACs. I have a little mathematical equation that I didn't make up. I begged, borrowed, and stole it from every other good coach I know. But take the total amount of points it takes to win conference, divide it into your scholarships, and that's how much money per point you can give out. My plans and thoughts coming in have changed rapidly and evolved as the landscapes evolved in front of me, being a first-time head coach. So, we are giving out scholarship money right now, especially the first year, to help grow the team. And so, if you get $1,000 or $2,000 of scholarship, that brings you down to about $20,000 a year for a degree that says the University of Pittsburgh. There's no Johnstown on the degree. And I sort of feel bad saying that because, hey, University of Pittsburgh, Johnstown's a great degree. Johnstown doesn't show up on there. You got your degree from the University of Pittsburgh, and you have an opportunity to swim when last time I checked, Pitt, Maine, and Oakland, you probably got to have trials cuts or approaching to get on the team, which is how big dog D1 teams do it. And that's great. For us, it's wide open. It's probably a little more than half the cost, probably 60% of the cost as compared to Pitt, Maine. And you're going to have an opportunity to swim. And if you love swimming as much as I do, like, come on in. It's going to be a great time. And we're going to have a great coach athlete relationship. Most important part of what we do is the coach athlete relationship. I've got to know my swimmers and they've got to know me so we can trust each other. And so, we can help each other the best we can. I tell my swimmers, it's not so important what I see you doing in the water. It's really more important what you feel and how you communicate that to me. And then I match it up with what I see, and we put the plan together to biomechanically break down and rebuild your stroke to be best it can be. So yeah, it's cool. We do have a little scholarship money, and I'm using more of it than I thought. So, but that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Yeah. It's nice to have that. It really is. So yeah.
Will the student athletes go there for a year or two and then springboard elsewhere? There's this whole transfer portal, or do you
better not
ever, or you stay there for 4 years or even a 50, or you redshirt and such, so do you see that transition? You haven't approached any of that, but it's bound to happen, I imagine.
No, that's a really good thought, because you do think about that in this day and age. The landscape in the last couple of years has totally changed, and I'll be a cranky, grumpy old man and say I don't like it, like, at all. But I understand it too, and it is what it is. Everything's so instant today. I feel like one of the biggest challenges for young adults and children, and my two children, is to be here now and to be present in the moment. And when you've got computers and phones and everything, you're getting pulled in all these different directions. So I just encourage people to take a deep breath and be here now. And with my recruits, with their families, I really like talking to their moms and dads in person too. And, if you love UPJ, I want you to come here. But I tell them it's the biggest decision of your life up until this point in your life, is to choose where you're going to go to college. So go with what your heart tells you to do. As much as I want all these awesome people to come here, they've got to love it, because I want people to stay 4 years. I don't ever want to have one person that transfers or leaves. And part of that is the recruiting process, to make sure they love it. I'm not trying to convince them to come here. I can do a very honest and organic, I don't even want to call it a sales job, because it's straight from the bottom of my heart, because I love UPJ that much. I can talk to them about all this, but if they're not into it, you got to go somewhere where you're into, or where you get the best deal too. I don't think you beat the University of Pittsburgh degree. I think that's absolutely worth it, but it's really what I tell the recruits. It's a lot more important what you think than what I think about it. So no, I don't transfers would break my heart. I know it's part of the deal and part of the business, but I'll do everything within reason to have people stay within reason. You got to think of the greater good and the team and everything. But the whole goal is, and I'm sure you totally get this too, bring in swimmers that love it and want to stay and want to get a great education and a great degree and be a part of something that's going to be really fun. I'm a really positive, high energy coach. I don't get mad at my swimmers. If I'm yelling, it's super positive, let's go, so that's how I roll. And, if something's not going right, I look internally hey, what could I have done differently? How could I have written that workout differently? Could I have read the room a little differently when they walk in? I don't always plan recovery days, but when we need them, we absolutely use them. And I said this to my swimmers a couple of weeks ago. I said, you guys are a real honest, hardworking group. I said, I trust you 100%. I said, I know you guys trust me 100% too. If you've been working really, really, really hard, some of these swimmers, Mark, my sophomores, haven't swum in a year and a half. They haven't swum in a year and a half, and they're going lifetime best times after 3 months. And it's and they do that in prelims, and then they drop more in finals. I'm oh man, this is great, just affirmation to what we're doing. But I say to them, you give me an honest effort every day, and I see you coming in, shoulders slumped, you're tired, you're not talking much, the mood's down, when usually the mood's way up at practice. I'm going to let you recover, because I know that you've been working harder than you've ever been working, and recovery is really important to adaptation and the success of your training. So it's really nice to be able to have a wonderful group that I trust, that I can read and go, okay, we've worked really hard for the last 7 workouts. They've hit the wall. It's going to be diminishing returns if I want to do quality with them today. So let's do a recovery workout, talk a little bit, make sure everybody's good with school, make sure that everybody's good with life, and then definitely let them know we're going to hit it really hard tomorrow, and they know that. I talked to them too. Hey, swimming's really hard. It's really hard. You don't get in shape in 3 weeks and go best times in 4 weeks. It is the hardest sport because it's the only sport where you're suspended in a liquid and you're forced to hold your breath. And I like to throw this one out there too, like, hey, you guys could make it through like a football practice or basketball practice or baseball or softball practice or whatever. A lot of those athletes couldn't finish our warm-up just because it's that kind of sport. And that's just honest and true. So I let them know, there's you get a lot of hype for football in our country. And I don't necessarily come home on Saturday afternoons and watch college swimming, Mark. I'm a Georgia grad. I'm putting on my Georgia Bulldogs and watching some Georgia football if I get 5 minutes to do it, because this job truly is 7 days a week, and I love it. But like you talk about football being tough and all these other sports, swimming's got it in spades. We are by far the toughest sport there is out there. And I remind my swimmers of that so they know when it gets really hard, hey, you're doing something exceptional. You're doing something really special. Keep it up and it's going to pay off. And have it pay off so big at the Johnstown State meet this weekend. I told my swimmers, and I might have said this less than 5 times in my 30-year coaching career. I said, I looked them all in the eyes with a big smile on my face at the end of the meet. And I said, you guys exceeded my expectations. Nice job. And they got a big smile. Yeah. And then I drove the van home because I'm the bus driver too with the smaller team right now. We're working on changing that. It'd be nice to not have to drive home late on a Saturday night and have a paid coach bus do that for you. That's one of the motivations of growing the team too. But I'm happy to do it. You do whatever it takes to make things like this work. And like I said, the support at UPJ is unprecedented for me. It's just fantastic. Like the soccer coach, Eric, my buddy, wants to know how the swim team's doing. Like Shane, the women's wrestling coach, hey, how's swimming going? And then all those teams come into the pool and I get to play a part in cross training them, which is cool. One of my favorite things about coaching in college, when you coach club, you're around a lot of awesome swim coaches, and that's so valuable. But you get to college and you get to kind of, talk to the wrestling coaches about, okay, what do you do? I was talking to our compliance director, Mike Whaler, who is just awesome. He was the head coach of wrestling at Mercyhurst for 18 years. And now he's our compliance director. And I was sitting down working on some Teamworks and C+R. That's our platform we do recruiting and compliance through. And once you figure it out, it's a great platform. Mike's helped me a ton with that. And I said, Mike, let's talk about rest and prepping for a big meet in wrestling and swimming. I said, how do you do it? And I won't bore you with the details, but I just sat back and listened, and everything he said was so similar to how I do it. I said, that's great. All that does is give you confidence as a swim coach to see that wrestling actually has a taper too, and I'm a big believer in tapers all about how you train. Taper's what you put into it. There's no magic taper out there that can save you if you didn't do the work. You know what I mean? Taper's all about the work you put in. But it was great to have like a 10-minute conversation with, former wrestling coach and our compliance guy about how he preps his wrestlers for their end of season meet, and to have it match up with like a lot of the same science that we use in swimming and the same philosophies. That's just cool. And you just don't get that unless you're, in a college situation. So that's fun. And it's fun working with like the wrestlers when they come in, because I'm a big believer in, if you're not a good swimmer, I swim. I do my best to swim every day. I don't quite do it every day, but I like to stay in shape because I feel like it's what you do, not just to be a good example for my swimmers, but to live a long, healthy life, and I'm I can kind of glide through the water. I'm not fast, but swimming's not hard for me. And that's just a gift from God, straight up. And you see some of these like wrestlers come in and they're not good swimmers and they're like turning purple. And I'm jealous because they're getting a way better workout than I do in the pool because it's so hard for them. You know what I mean? So it's fun, man. It's just a really cool environment to be in, to be surrounded by all those other sports and everybody who's doing their best to be successful. And when it all works together, like I said, that synergy is just like, just look out. UPJ athletics is on the way up with every sport. And so it's our mission. So it's really cool. It's nice to have swimming as a part of that. It's a blessing for me to be a part of that. Like, dream come true to get this job, Mark. Total dream come true.
It's a safe, more rural area. People will be happy sending their kids abroad. That's a scary thing. But then a place like Pitt Johnstown might be more welcoming or less intimidating than other campus locations. So are you able to look into recruiting into Canada, into Europe, or trying to find some people abroad, or is that just too far off the radar?
No, that's an awesome question because recruiting is such a beautiful thing. And it's like, I want to give the opportunity to everybody. I started out really locally, just in the Johnstown area. My boys, they swim. They're good swimmers. You know, they're not getting like quad A cuts or anything like that. But they haven't swum like summer league in a couple years. And so I put them on the Monaco Summer League team, which is, you know, about 20 minutes away from me where I live in the west end of Johnstown. And it was such a wonderful experience. I did it for them, but I also did it because that's a great way for me to be a dad, but also, you know, rep this right there for them. And so, you know, I feel like Johnstown fights the good fight. Doesn't really have the best reputation as a town, but one thing that's beautiful about UPJ is we're in Richland, which is about 20 minutes from downtown Johnstown and is one of the nicest suburbs in the whole state of Pennsylvania. And so I'm thinking, you know, UPJ is great for everybody, but I'm like, let's do it locally first. So I expanded from within, you know, working the summer league circuit, getting to know Coach Denny and Coach Maria at Monaco, fantastic coaches. I couldn't teach my own boys how to do breaststroke, and in 3 days, Coach Denny and Coach Maria had them doing legal breaststroke. I'm like, that's it. I want to be Zeke and Arlo's dad. You know what I mean? That's the biggest blessing ever on earth. I want other people to coach them because when they're with me, we just end up having fun and playing. And so just wonderful experience. Coach Maria also coaches at Richland High School, and Denny also coaches at Westmont High School a little bit. So it's a really nice local connection. And I've just expanded outward from there, talked to a lot of Pittsburgh teams. The Allegheny Mountain Swimming LSC is our LSC, connected with some people in Harrisburg and Philly, and Florida, South Carolina, Arizona, all that. But to get to the international part, yes, I'm talking to a swimmer who lives in Dubai, but is from India, wants to make the Indian Olympic team. I'm like, let's go. Talking to a guy from France, talking to people from Brazil, talking to a couple swimmers from Canada, from Mexico. And what's tough is when you're an international student, is it's just naturally more expensive. You're flying from, Paris, over here. Okay, there's a couple grand, probably, maybe it's not that much, but I mean, it's not cheap and it takes a lot of time. So keeping the scholarships balanced, I don't necessarily have like any favoritism for internationals, but I love it. We love internationals just for the diversity and the flavor they bring to UPJ. But I like to keep a nice, fair and balanced methodology with, people from PA, people from the States, people from across the Atlantic Ocean. I really don't treat them any differently, because if you want the experience, come to UPJ, it's awesome. So I expect to have a mix of Pennsylvania swimmers, of people from all over America, and honestly, people from all over the world, if they can handle coming over to the States and take care of, the financial side of it, which for some people might be easier said than done. We talk budget. I talk budget with all my swimmers, but especially with international swimmers, because I want to get on the same page with them. I want to be fully transparent, and just let them know what we can and what we can't do. I also feel like if you're an international student, prospective student athlete, like for so many of them, and this is super beautiful. This is props to the greatest country in the world. They all want to come to America. And it's like so beautiful. That warms my heart because I'm a huge patriot. I believe we have the best country in the world. I know we go through struggles. I get it. USA Swimming is the most organized, strongest youth sport on earth. More gold medals. The stat for a while was more gold medals than all of their summer Olympic teams put together. I don't think that's true anymore, but 20 years ago, I think that was true. And we just have a great organization over here. So, I want everybody to come in and enjoy it. I've actually done a lot of volunteer work with USA Swimming. I just spent a ton of time with the LSC Development Committee, which is the highest ranking, hardest working, most respected committee in USA Swimming, led by Jane Grosser and Mary Ellen Tynan. Just wonderful people. I actually just rolled off and had my last meeting in November, and cried a couple tears of joy when they said some really nice things about me. And it's been wonderful to give back and volunteer like that. And working with people that are way smarter than me, I got to learn a ton over the past handful of years. So that was a blessing. And it was a little sad for me to roll off the committee. I'd been on there for years, and I would have stayed forever if I could, but governance, bylaws, rules, you got to follow those. So, it was my time to peace out from there. But what's great is I can call up USA Swimming, and they're going to call me by my first name when they pick up the phone. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Because when you give selflessly, the USA Swimming is going to give back to everybody, but it's nice. I feel like I have a special place with USA Swimming. I've been a USA Swimming member since 1982, and it's the best organization, at least best national governing body, in the country for sure, and best sports organization in the world. So that was a blessing. I got to learn a lot just through that whole process.
Your resume is fabulous with regards to some of the awesome advances you made in South Carolina, in North Carolina, with working with the club scene there. Can you give me a little bit of the overview of what you did and what we need to do more of in other parts of the country?
Absolutely. So when I started coaching in the North Carolina LSC in the spring of 2007, Dave Marsh had just left Auburn to be the head coach of Swim Mac. Dave Marsh is the best coach I've ever met in my life, and a wonderful, wonderful guy. Just serendipitously, I got to spend a lot of time and connect with him. I was in Waynesville, North Carolina, where if you're in Waynesville, you don't say Waynesville, you say Waynesville. Everybody talks like this, and they're the most wonderful people I've ever met. Your car breaks down on the side of the road. It's a matter of seconds before someone you don't know is there to help you out, and see you through to make sure you're good. Waynesville, North Carolina. Shout out Smoky Mountain Aquatic Club, unofficially called by USA Swimming the best small team in the country in 2009. We had like 48 swimmers on the team. We had 8 kids at spring juniors. It was awesome. We were breaking sectional records in the eastern section of the Southern Zone, which is the fastest section in USA Swimming. Had a 12-year-old girl break the sectional record in the mile, get 8-minute warm down, and then break it in the 200 IM. It was sick. It was so much fun. Broke it in the 400 IM. At 12, she was 4:30.67 in the 400 IM. London Schumacher, loved to train. If we didn't have a hard workout, she was mad. And I'm still really good friends with her family. They're just wonderful people. So when I walked into the North Carolina LSC, I was the new guy, and so was Dave Marsh. So we connected, and I said, hey, I really want to help you run one of your swim camps. Waynesville and Charlotte are about 2 hours away, not far at all. He's like, that's cool. I can't pay you to do it. I said, I'm not doing it for money. I want to learn from you. And at that time at Swim Mac, Alan Fowle, Coach Russ, Stephanie, they had just an all-star cast of coaches. I mean, they were just churning it out. And I show up and I coach with Dave, and it's like just a wonderful experience. And I look at my mailbox 3 days later, and there's a huge stack of all his DVDs that he just sent me for free because he's a super classy, wonderful guy. I don't know, best sprint coach I've ever met, not just sprint coach. I mean, best coach all the way around. The North Carolina LSC, Mark, is the coolest LSC that I've ever been a part of. The coaches, we do a great job. I say we, I haven't been there in years, but we did a great job of putting aside, your local competitive beefs. You know what I mean? The TAC Titans and the Marlins of Raleigh and New Wave, they all want to beat each other, but Paul and JP and John Roy for House of Delegates meetings could all set that aside and say, hey, what's big picture? What's greater good? How do we grow? How do we get more kids at juniors? How do we get more kids at trials? And I got to, as a younger coach, sit back and absorb that. And it was really, it's ingrained in my swimming DNA to this day that it's like, hey, you can be competitive, and heck yeah, you should be competitive. But at the end of the day, let's come together and make things great. It's like Chris Villa and Adam at IUP, same deal. They're so supportive of UPJ because they believe in big picture swimming. Dave Marsh was a big part of my education on big picture swimming. And so North Carolina LSC, really fast, wonderful. After that, I got the job as sport development director of the South Carolina Swimming LSC, the first sport development director in the history of South Carolina swimming, second only to the great Tony Young from the Indiana LSC, who's just fantastic guy, fantastic coach, great motivator. Tony, before I was doing a speech out of Colorado Springs for a USA Swimming Convention, Tony like pulled me aside and like just made sure I was ready for the speech. I didn't even know the guy. And he just was like, he got me so inspired that like my speech was awesome. And he just did that to help me give a great speech. Arlene McDonald, kind of like just in a lot of ways, the godmother of great things in USA Swimming. Arlene McDonald, meet director for Olympic trials, among many other things, helped create the sport development director position in the Indiana LSC. And they just took off. Numbers grew. They got really fast. And it was like, wow. So South Carolina kind of copied that. And I was really fortunate and blessed to be the first sport development director in the South Carolina Swimming LSC. And people might say, what's a sport development director? I'm going to tell you. So really what the job was create opportunities for our members. Okay. And that sounds very like general and vague, but like, first of all, create educational and training opportunities for our swimmers so they become better. Create educational opportunities and coaching opportunities for our coaches so they become better. Educate our board on governance. Governance is the most boring thing on earth to me, but it's like one of the most important things. I'm a trained expert in governance. If you had asked me 20 years ago if that would ever happen, Mark, I'd probably say, what's governance? So, but to work with the board on that. So when I got there, we had one camp. I created 4 more, a senior select camp, an open water camp, a couple others, and created a coaches clinic that was probably my favorite thing that I could be the creator of and the catalyst for, just because it's like so cool. Part of my job was we had a big coaches fund with a lot of money in it. No one was using it. So Tim Conley, good friend of mine today, the age group chair, fantastic coach at Y Spartanburg back in the day, now vice president of the YMCA Association in like Rock Hill, South Carolina, has got 2 long course pools built, 2 50-meter pools built in the last 10 years. Tim Conley, genius. He's like, Kyle, here's the deal. Look at this number in our coaches fund bank account. He's like, it's your job to spend that. I was like, okay, sweet. So I called like Paul Yetter at NBAC to come run, one of our camps. The most, for my personal like circle of friends and elite coaches, Paul Yetter has the most beautiful mind of anyone I've ever met, not just for swimming, but in life, but especially for swimming. Super positive, super supportive. Got Alan Fowle to come in and run a select camp. For the coaches clinics, got Beth Winkowski, who now works at USA Swimming, absolute genius coach. Got Jason Turcotte, God rest his soul, man. He came in and broke down everything he did at Dynamo, and Dynamo was just humming on all 6 cylinders. And then at the end, he gave everyone the link to the copy of every workout on PDF that he's ever written. And I'm like, you talk about selfless, like, man, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. So you get to do that. Sergio Lopez, most fun coach I've ever met in my life. When Sergio was at Bowles coaching, he had it. I mean, he great coach, did a great job. He had it pretty good, man. Caleb Dressel, Ryan Murphy, Joseph Schooling, all in the same pool at once, like that's a pretty good relay right there. And so Sergio comes down, and sometimes what I would try to do is find coaches that were going to be real. Like, how many coaches talks have you heard where they don't really like open it up, and it's like, okay, we're not going to spend hours all weekend. We got the coaches clinics catered. We took the coaches out on the, company credit card for dinner, because that's where you really talk shop, go have dinner with the coach. But Sergio was showing us videos of like, Ryan Murphy and Joseph Schooling and Caleb Dressel, and like showing us workouts, and broke down everything that he was doing. And when I swam at Florida State back in the day, long time ago, we're 9th in the nation and undefeated. I still take a lot of what we did there into the training that I do now as a coach. It was funny because Sergio's, workouts were very similar to what we did at Florida State, just good quality, the right amount of work, warm up, kick set, skill set, 40-minute, threshold set, recover, and then sprint, recover, till the end with a lot of really good skill work in there. And so Sergio's opened this up for everybody. And then afterwards, the dude's just the life of the party. I mean, he's as good of a coach as he is a cool person. And like his stories, when he lived in Spain, bronze medalist from 88, I believe, in the 200 breaststroke. His stories, like not even revolving around swimming, were awesome. So a couple years later, I go to a meet at Auburn as a club coach. Sergio's there. He's got a goatee about this long, and it's purple, like light purple. He's coaching Kevin Cordes. We're walking in for warm-up, and all these like swimmers that had been to his camps, like 10 and unders, we're like, so Sergio's facing the pool, and all these 10 and unders walking behind him. And they're like, Sergio, hey. He turns his back and just high five, high five, high five, high five. Kevin Cordes, world record holders in the water. Serge isn't even paying attention to him. He's just like vibing out with all these 10-year-olds, being like, hey, good luck, go get him, go get him. I'm like, I love this guy. I'm like, that's the kind of coach I want to be. And just a wonderful guy. So to get him in and have him do like 4 2-hour like instructional sessions really helped. We ended up having the second highest percentage of Olympic trials qualifiers in the South Carolina LSC and the number 1 average IMX score for long course and short course. And after 18 months of being in the position, we were the fastest growing LSC in the country by over a rate of double the national average. And I really think the genius behind that is creating the position. I was lucky to be that guy, but like to create the sport development director position for the LSC to connect up with USA Swimming and then have them connect down with you. Every LSC needs that. And I really feel like every LSC should have a sport development director. So just creating that position was genius. It had always been a dream of mine to like clone myself. I don't believe in cloning, but like when I was coaching, like if I could stand on deck and coach, but then clone myself and go hang out with all these other great coaches and programs around the country to just become a better coach. That dream pretty much came true when I was sport development director. I wasn't coaching a swim team, but I was coaching coaches, which is just a huge honor. And at that time, Y Spartanburg was just on the way up. They had like 350 kids on their team, and they were 12th on the gold medal club excellence like rating from USA Swimming. Just quality pound for pound team. I live 20 minutes down the road from those guys. Carl Kozicki, who coached there, is still one of my best friends. He had a swimmer go on to get a world record. He just had a swimmer in 2024, Lila Bogner, at 17, and she's like 5'2", take third in the 400 IM at Olympic trials, dropping like 3.5 seconds to do it. She was first from breaststroke into free. And she got third, little 17-year-old, almost made the Olympic team. Carl Kozicki, Team Greenville, great program. So these guys, like, I'd go have dinner with them. Like, Carl would come over to my house, you know. My boys know Carl. Carl is my youngest son's godparent. So, like, just to be in that ecosystem of excellent swimming where you kind of didn't even know what was going on. I look back, Mark, I'm like, man, did that really happen? Like, it was a dream, you know, but a dream come true. And that just helped me do a ton of good on like a major level. Running a not-for-profit of 3,000 members, you know, really teaches you to be organized. And not that I'm always the most organized person, but I do my best. And it really teaches you to be open and malleable and flexible to all different needs. You know, one minute you got someone calling you about coaching. Another minute you got someone calling you about pool time. Another minute you got, you know, the board chair talking to you about governance. And you get that because you work with a ton of different entities too. You said, you know, you have a call with someone about insurance issues. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff you do. That made me the best coach I could be. And I'm so blessed to have had that experience. That was really cool.
Wow. And now we get you to do that in Pennsylvania. We really need to have you come to Pittsburgh and do camps, or have you become a lightning rod for some of the deep thinking and communication collaboration. Coaching the coach stuff is what I've been trying to do with our podcast. It's a blessed feeling to be able to stroke somebody's imagination and have that take root and see some good from it. That was a fabulous run in the Carolinas, and congratulations. And Sergio Lopez, an ISCA Hall of Fame member. Tony Young and I go way back to Artes in Illinois. It is a small world. It's going to be wonderful to have you make an impact here in Western Pennsylvania.
We need it. We need it big time. Down south, there's a pool on every corner because the weather, right? You know what I mean? The weather. Up here, it's hockey weather. So we need it. I will help out any way I can. I love doing camps. I love doing clinics. It's like one of my favorite things. You just let me know, and I'll connect with a lot of other coaches too, but I'm all about it. Just for the greater good. Because when you do so, when you're blessed to, help people, you instill the love of swimming and inspire them. It's my mission from God. That's what I do in life. And, it'll benefit UPJ, but just the good feeling is like, just when it just does good for people. Number one reason why 8 and unders die in America is drowning. Like you can't have that. I just taught 200 swimmers how to swim at St. Francis, doing swim lessons up there. And I feel like God really blessed me with this job, partially because I did that. That's a real thing. Number one cause of death for children 8 and under in America is drowning in the greatest country in the world. We can't have that. So from there all the way up to, hey, getting kids to win, D2 nationals and all that stuff, everything in between, it's super important. And I'm down to help out anytime I can. And I love it. So, yeah.
Well, I love your perspectives. I wish you all the success in the world. May the wind be at your back into the rest of the season, into the recruiting, and I will stay in touch. Thanks so much for your time.
Let's definitely stay in touch. This was an honor to do this, Mark. Thank you so much. Like this made my day. I would come on your show anytime. Let's definitely stay in touch, because I would love to brainstorm with you about how we just do the most good possible for swimming in our area, for sure.
I definitely have some ideas, especially with some of the areas that are not as functional, sort of dysfunctional in regards to swimming. And boy, it's going to be a great day too when you turn around and there's 3 or 4 people that want to be your volunteer assistant coach. Because you have such energy and they want to learn from a master.
That's the nicest thing, Mark. That's the nicest thing you could say. That's the nicest thing you could say. Thank you so much. That would be a dream come true, because teaching coaches, the coaching tree, it just helps spread the love to everybody, of swimming. And it's awesome. We'll definitely talk. I would love to talk with you more. And this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great day. Thanks.